Megan, look at that. Her last name. Can you tell me what is that?
Put another one on mine. Take the revenue for it. Don't hurt nothing.
No, because they have already been out there.
Actually, you can give it right to Megan there. Megan was supposed to.
Well, they gotta be guided and.
Okay, is that Berkeley? Okay, very good. Thanks.
Visually see it and then the light.
Okay.
Yeah, they
very
don't
good.
like.
Thank
them.
you.
President
I don't think there's much of that. over
Amazon.
there. The Intention is.
A short discussion. Nobody's
But
here.
Bughouse is not there.
It's fine.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, Mitchell's gonna be here.
Yeah, that's what
Thank you.
I thought Mitchell was saying Bughouse.
Good, how are you? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
I just sent them both.
Oh, is that Doral?
They both
Okay,
did it.
all right. Okay, very good. I always, otherwise I'll murder it up there, so. Thanks. Here's another one.
They're playing tennis with that. There'll be another one. Be like a big goose hitting it.
Or whatever, but they got it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I just sent them.
Just get one for the morning. Travel trailer.
Hmm?
Oh, you're on Board of Adjustments, that's right.
But there's all talking about the tower.
You guys didn't have anything.
I think so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There's four.
Yeah, great.
Well, it's 6:00, so we'll call this meeting, the Waushara County Board of Supervisors, to order. Start out with roll call.
Eckstein is here.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, Everett. All right, now let's stand. We'll say silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, motion by Bonfiglio, second by Bossard. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
All right, now we'll move to the approval of the minutes of the August 23rd, 2022, and a special meeting and September 20th, 2022 monthly meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Bob, second by Brandon. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Aye.
passes. Okay, so we'll move into public comments. We have 4 tonight that wanted to speak. The first one is Monica Keeler. You do have an order? What? Okay, well, I guess you can come in any order you want to. Okay, so it's Bob Merkley.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for putting this on the agenda. So we live in the town of Aurora. We're all located close to Cumberland Ave. There is a plan for a 300-foot tower, 100-yard tower, 25-foot story tower, or 25-story tower for Bug Tussle to be put up. This tower is approximately 1,500 feet from 11 to 13 homes. And, you know, I sent a bunch of questions, and I'm not sure that this is the right forum for that based off from where we're at today. But truly what we're here for is we've talked to a number of people, to include Joan Balwig, Brandon forwarded our stuff to the zoning director. Zoning director, thank you. And you know, we've done a lot of different things to understand how this tower is getting there. And now what we really are looking to do is, you know, we don't want it there, plain and simple. And I know what the state has done. Joan has shared that with us, what Governor Evers has passed for a law. So really that's what we're here for. Each one of us is to talk about that. You know, we had a plan to talk about specific questions, but you're probably not the right people, I'm guessing, to answer these questions. And I know I only got 1 minute and 12 seconds left. So with that being said, we obviously would appreciate the board taking a look at this, getting an understanding. And first of all, how did it get selected to be in our location? And what are other alternatives for that tower to be located? So with that,
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Okay, and who would like to go next? Is that Monica?
I'm Monica.
Monica Keeler?
Yes.
Thank you.
So as Bob indicated, we are people who reside. The property that I live on is directly adjacent to where the tower, the 300-foot tower, is being constructed. I have read through all of the information that was provided. And I guess one of the questions that I have for the board members is, have all of you read through the 400 pages of documentation that came with that? And has anybody validated that all of the requirements were met? In the documentation, I did find that our county is one of the counties in the state of Wisconsin that only requires a land use permit. And I would like to have that looked at, because even though I understand what happened with the state budget and the passage of things to make things easy for cell phone towers to be constructed, there are many counties within the state of Wisconsin that require a conditional use permit still. And that provides the opportunity for neighbors and adjoining property owners to at least know that one of these structures is going up in their backyard. The way that our ordinance is written, that is not a requirement, so I would like to have that looked at. Vernon County, Clark County, Brown County, Ozaukee County, all of them still require a conditional use permit. Some questions that I do have about the study that was done, the NEPA study, and the information that I could not find, and that's why I'm asking if anyone else knows where it is why this site was chosen and why a co-location on an existing facility was not considered. The other thing is the requirements for the orange and white striping and the large balls were indicated as federal aviation requirements. I cannot find where that is a requirement for this tower. And if it is in fact constructed, I would ask that that be looked at, because again, this is right in my backyard, literally in my backyard. And as Bob indicated, it is 25 stories tall. I don't want to be looking at that all day long. The other thing that I was unable to find in the NEPA information was the affidavit from the town of Aurora representative that provided them with knowledge on the site So if anybody has information on where that is, I would love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Valerie? Valerie Whitaker?
I'm here to talk about the population of sandhill cranes and other birds in the area. Within a very close distance, there's a marsh out back, and the sandhill crane population is pretty significant. Studies that I've read show that a tower greater than 200 feet, and this is a 300-foot tower, and it's in height, and it's lighted. And what happens is in the spring and fall, the migration periods produce significant loss of birds. And what ends up happening is when they don't recognize the wires and they fly into the wires and they get killed. And it also screws up if they're night migrating birds, then they're drawn to the light of the tower and they can't, because it's lighted, they circle around and they can't see the guide wires, and it ends up killing them. And also research that I've found shows that there's an impact to the bee population. Much of the bee population disappears as a result of the frequency of the towers. And I'm sure most of you have probably heard that, the evidence is out there if it affects humans. They say the prolonged exposure, and us living so close to that means prolonged exposure 24 hours a day for some of us because we work from home, that it can actually cause, especially for children who have thinner skulls and are growing, are more susceptible to issues as a result of the tower. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, Kenneth Thorough?
Good evening. Thank you for getting us last minute on this agenda tonight. So in my 3 minutes, I'm going to try to put some my feelings from the whole community and express them tonight, just to let you know where we're at on a lot of different subjects. But first of all, this is rural community. There's been house development in the last 25 years. I came to this board 25 years ago, not the same people, but there might be some people still on it. And I had to go through the town of Aurora to get my permits, and then to the county up here to get my permits. Had to go through zoning with Mark Schumacher, and he was great man to work with, trustworthy, honest. And the board approved of, we segregated a piece of Palmer Olson's land off, and I sold it to one of my neighbors down here, and they have 2 children, beautiful home. They invested a lot of money, and 500 feet from their house, they're building this tower. Adjacent to them, Monica spoke tonight. Monica and Mark are 250 feet from this tower. There's another couple that didn't make it tonight. They're at 200 feet from this tower. Adjacent to them, Bob is about 1,500 feet from the tower. We're about 1,200 feet from the tower. I invested a lot of money in this community. I built a nice home. We pay over $5,000 taxes every year. We pay on time. We're good to the community. We raise our children. We brought the value of the property up. And to see this happen without having a notice to our township that this is going on, so we could have this discussion early, but no one was ever notified. Travis knocked on my business one day and said, "Ken, did you hear about what Daryl's doing?" I said, "No, I thought he's building a house." Well, anyways, it ended up this situation now. And furthermore, Spectrum is a block away from going right past this bug tussle tower. Spectrum is doing fiber optics underground, and their Spectrum is known for good quality internet, safe underground internet. And I don't understand why there's no planning for Spectrum and bug tussle. Why are they in the same area? If everybody had a choice here, they would definitely choose Spectrum because it's underground and it's fiber optics, and it's better for the community. I am not against progress, but one thing I am against is Bug Tussle told us at this Town of Aurora meeting that there was a gentleman and his name is Gordy Prisbel, and Gordy Prisbel wanted the tower on his property within the same area. And all of us tonight would agree that that would be a better area for this tower. But Bug Tussle decided not to put it on Gordy Prisbel's property because they said they didn't want to maintain the driveway as a longer driveway. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening to all our concerns.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth. Appreciate it. Good. Right. Okay. So next we moved in, there's no unfinished business. So we'll move right into the new business, which is the first item is the Bug Tussle Tower on Cumberland Road in Town of Aurora discussion. So you're the representative, is that correct? Okay. Would you want to just maybe answer some of the concerns here that the people brought forward? And some of them, yeah, you heard some of them, I think.
It was bad frequent traffic and accidents. I was on the phone, so I did hear.
Come up to the mic. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but we have people online. So, or do you want to give them? We do have a handheld. too.
That would work perfect. Okay, I'll do my best to speak into the mic. So I listened to the concerns on the phone on the way in, and we were aware of the concerns in advance of this meeting. The long and short of it is there is a zoning procedure through both the county and the town, and we applied for and were granted all of the applicable permits. The number one siting criteria in building a tower site is a willing landowner. We had a few candidates that we evaluated. We went forward with the candidate that we are in the process of constructing on due to a number of factors: the cost of the build, the RF propagations from the site, and the willingness of the landowner to work with us on terms that were favorable to us. So that's how we end up where we are. And then from there, we go through the permitting process. We have our building permit and our driveway permit. We had contact with the town throughout the process. We had to do a certified survey map in this instance, which is a little bit more nuanced, but did have more contact with both the town and the county throughout that process. So I apologize that you feel that this was kind of sprung up in the middle of the night, but it wasn't. The program that funds this tower is a partnership we have with the county that started in the beginning of last year. And this tower was identified on a map as a rough location. It had been discussed at numerous county board proceedings between here and there, and that's kind of how we got to where we are today. I'm better at answering questions than I am at just talking, so if anybody has any, I'd be happy to.
Okay, anybody have some questions?
When are you anticipating you're building it? December?
We've started, as you can see, if anyone's looked by the site, we've started the civil construction. The tower is in the process of being painted in accordance with the ordinance, which if you guys want to waive that, I have no problem with doing that. But once the painting is done and the tower is delivered, it'll be stacked. So it will certainly be before the end of the year. December is a safe estimate, but it'll be imminent.
Is there, I mean, it sounds as if this is in the middle of a bunch of homes. Is there a possibility to?
Middle of a bunch of homes is pretty relative. There are homes certainly within eyeshot of the tower, which is good because that's how the tower works. And there are homes that are closer than others. We would have a relatively difficult time if we were only allowed to build towers X number of feet away from someone's home. And I realize that there are individuals who don't like what their neighbor is doing with their property, but that's kind of the hand that we were dealt at this point. To move the tower at this point would be a very significant out-of-pocket expense, more than $100,000. And also a significant delay is it would probably be this time next year that the tower would end up getting built.
I guess I would have a question for Todd then too. Something was brought up. Why do we not require conditional use? Can you just, yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Didn't think I was going to get into a public hearing.
No, sorry.
So this question has come up to our office. I know Brandon has forwarded me several inquiries. Just a little information. Statute 66.041, I believe it was, was amended several years ago, downgrading the requirements. And Ruth, you can probably, you and I know have discussed this, but it's been downgraded where they used to require conditional uses for towers. That was amended, like I say, several years ago in the statutes, and it's 66.04, and then there's a couple other numbers in there. So, and as a result, we amended our codes and that to require, just per the statutes, that it has to go through a land use permit. There is a co-application that was submitted as part of this file. It's certified by a licensed engineer stating that they've reviewed the servicing requirements needed for this tower and that there were no towers within the immediate area in which they can put antennas on that would give them the service that they needed. That's all that's required by our code, and that's by a licensed engineer and certified. And then the other things too is the orange and white. That is a requirement. That's per our county code, as well as the balls on the wires. So they've met all of the county code requirements, which are in line with the state statutes. So that's where we're at today. And I know I've amended, I think I've addressed a couple of concerns that have come our way, both from the town inquiring about this and a long litany of questions. And I've tried to answer those as best as possible. But our statutes are pretty clear and they do follow the state. Our county codes are very clear and do follow the state statutes.
Okay. Do any of you have any questions?
Was it Monica that had questions? Following state. But as a county, you could put
No.
that into.
We cannot be more restrictive than state statutes. That I don't know. And that because I know that the state statutes are quite clear. It actually says right in that provision, permitting process, that it has to just go through a standard land use permit. It's right in the code, right in the statute. Nope.
This particular statute was written, the state took away first
Mhm.
and even made them jump through a conditional use permit. If they met all the requirements of the statute, the committee would have no choice but to approve it. They could not deny it because it would give. That's how the statute is written.
So the Washington County statute is to say, that's the question at the top. This was built city limits. All homes in a city block. Power in that city, center of that city.
County doesn't even issue permits in the city has to.
No, but I'm using that as an example because the scenario that we're in is all these houses. This is kind of in the center of all these homes.
I understand what you're saying, but really our hands are tied the way that the state did this.
There are a lot of towers in town. We're building a tower in Watoma. Granted, it's a relatively unpopulated part of Watoma, but we do have a tower sited and zoned in the city of Watoma. But if you start to recognize where towers are, they're everywhere. They're all the way downtown in Green Bay, where I came from. There's towers everywhere, and a lot of them are very close to people's homes.
So if the tower is 300 feet, greater than 100 feet away from home.
However, there's an engineer study and per our code, fall zone, and that has to be provided by an engineer stating that it will fall within probably there's a statement that 8% of the statute required setback, it would have to fall down to that. As a licensed documentation states that that's where it has to be set back. Because of it's the collapsible nature of the weight.
It's designed that in the very unlikely event that it were to fail, effectively it breaks in half. And so it just folds in on itself.
for you, Mr. Zoning Administrator, isn't it part of your job, most of the property, when there's a significant tower like this in the community, go and look at the site, put recommendations, see if it's gonna be a
Sure. The Public Service Commission and the state have taken that authority away from us. I mean, as Ruth had kind of alluded to, if they meet all of the criteria that's established in the statutes and per our county code, our hands are tied. We have nothing that we can do to prevent it from going forward. And we'd have to even recommend in favor of a conditional use if it were to go forward for a conditional use. We have right now, and I'm sure you've seen, here in town, we've got a solar farm going up that's right adjacent to people's homes. And that, once again, they met all the criteria of the Public Service Commission and all of our states, all of our county codes. And it went through, we couldn't object to it. I mean, these are, understand, I have the best interests of everybody here in mind when we look at these things. However, there are certain things where our hands literally get tied.
So at the last meeting, Chris had explained about Tussle, that on this tower, the magnitude of this tower is 304 feet tall. Disruption of the community, the lights. No one knows the history of the radiation it's going to give off in the future. No one can tell us here tonight that 25 years down the road, when this group of people all die and they're gone, if we die of old age, they don't know that it's not coming from this tower. No one knows the research on it, and everybody passes the buck on the situation. But the whole story I'm trying to paint is, Chris told us on this tower, all they're building this tower for, they have to have 80 patrons. 80 patrons for this whole tower in this community. And at the meeting at Town of Aurora, we had almost 20 people that were against this tower. And they're doing this for 80 people. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. When we invest in this community, all of us, for our homes and the future of this community and for our children and the property values, and as a taxpayer, where are my rights? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take just a couple more. Okay.
I'm not sure where the 80-person number came from, or which. I understand. I just don't know. Thank you. Okay, Chris Peterson. Okay, that's kind of just a benchmark for what we would like to have on our tower sites. The towers that we build have space for 4 commercial tenants on them. One of them is Bug Tussle, and then there's room for 3 additional carriers. The majority of the sites that we build and operate have AT&T on them, with 2 additional spaces, whether that be for T-Mobile or Verizon or the electric cooperative, or there's also space on these towers for the county as part of that deal there. The towers serve a lot of purposes. And so independent of whether or not we have the 80 customers, the tower's going to be there because there's a lot of other uses for it.
Okay, we have one more.
Two miles is a big deal. 2 miles is a pretty significant deviation from an RF standpoint. And so of all of the properties that are within our search area that are of sufficient size to host a tower were solicited. As we reached out to all of the people, and those who reach back are the ones that we work with. Those who are willing and eager to have a tower on their site and are within our search area are the ones that we move forward with.
Requirements that you also have to follow. State amends, there's what we can have to follow.
To say that we don't care about where we place the tower isn't accurate, but at this point is the concern that you guys brought we're well too far down the road for us to really give them credence. Now, it's a difficult position we're in because it's always going to be in somebody's backyard to an extent. And so we have these meetings and we have these discussions with people who want it to move a block the other way into somebody else's backyard. Now, had you had other options, granted the statute doesn't allow you to make alternative proposals, but we usually are willing to hear them. And if they work within our RF perspective and we have a favorable relationship with the landowner such that we can get the tower built, absolutely. We have no issue working with the people that show an interest in working with us. But at this point, as we're already $100,000 invested in this site and it's much too late to move it.
Okay.
I move we vote on the question.
Thank you, Everett. We have nothing to vote on with this, but this is going to be our last comment. We've discussed, we've let you, we've kind of gone out of our normal thing so, okay. Thank you. Unless anyone else from the county board has any questions. Okay. Then we'll move on. All right, so we'll move into reports and presentations. County Administrator's Monthly Report. Melissa Ping.
When I speak dark like this. All right. Good to see you all again. Most of you were at the groundbreaking out at the highway department. It was quite windy, so thank you for making it out to that successful event. And Everett, we have some photos we're sending your way. Mary already sent them. So thanks for coming to that.
Thank you.
Just a few things that are happening. The building project, we're still moving forward. The EOC building design of the evidence garage, and how that's all going to work together, how we're going to use the highway department, how we're going to use other spaces. We're in the brainstorming and trying to figure out, where we can keep things without having to build anything more, and protecting our equipment as much as we can, like having possibly the aging vehicles be parked underneath and get as much undercover so we can keep it longer. And then also the committee that is meeting for the city and county about what will happen to this property and the North Annex is ongoing. There was a survey sent out, and Mary's going to be putting that in the Argus. Correct, Mary? And it's also on our website about there's just a few questions about your thoughts about how to possibly use this into the future, this building and these other, this campus basically. With financials, we sent out the budget to you. You'll get the full budget book by November 1st with just we'll be adding like the staff pieces and like how many employees there are and their goals and stuff. But what you have is all of the numbers that we got through. And at executive this last month, we did do an ARPA plan on how we will be proposing future asks of the ARPA money to you. So I'll be getting that out to the department heads, and then those proposals will come to the board. We'll review them, and then you guys will approve, modify, deny those requests, just so there's a process, because there was a process, and then that was when we first got the ARPA dollars, and now we're at a place where with the plan, with the building, there's ARPA monies that were slotted for the sheriff or this or that, but we want to make sure that the board's approving those as they come forward, just like they do everything else. Some fun stuff is Parks is going to give a report, and he's working on the lights. As the admin team, we're going to go out and help him with decorating and getting things set up. So he's looking for volunteers, so I'm sure he'll solicit that. A few other things that were interesting in the last few months. Veterans had invited a few of us to go on a tour of the King out in King and Wapaka, the cemetery there. And that was really an interesting experience, and they're building some. And if you ever get a chance to talk to Bill about that, it was very interesting. There is going to be a resolution later on, Operation Greenlight, and that is for veterans that we're going to promote using the green lights to honor our veterans. So I think Ruth may talk about that when that comes up later. We also spent a whole day, some of you were there, on highway financing. And that was very eye-opening because that's an enterprise fund. And we're going to learn more about highway funding, but it was a very interesting. We had some guys from the state come in with Brian and his team. And also I was able to attend conservation days that planning and zoning had. And that was pretty cool. I got to be Bob's assistant. So that was a really neat experience. If you guys get to do that next year in September, I would highly recommend that. And then lastly, with the budget, so we'll get to that in a little while, but the plan is for next year, after now we've gotten through one, that we can start to do some strategic planning. And the department heads have already started meeting on how we can do more with less. And not come up against a 2.9 million overage out of the gate. So we've already started on that. So, but we'll talk about that more later.
Okay, very good. Does anyone have any questions for Melissa? Okay, thanks. All right, number 2, Parks Department Annual Report. Kevin Bain, Parks Department Director.
Good evening, members of the board. Some of you I don't know. So I am Kevin Beam. I'm the Director of Parks. I've been here for about 2.5 years. Mark, I did bring some handouts for you and I'm going to be brief, so we're done. Waushara County Parks. We maintain 679 acres of land. That's up about 24 acres with the land trade out at Kuzel Lake and Evergreen with the town of Springwater. We have 12 park sites, including the 7-mile Bannerman Trail. That trail is open for horseback riding and snowmobiling, as well as hiking and biking. We maintain the fairgrounds and all the buildings and facilities on the fairgrounds. The one thing that's important to note is we do not have anything to do with the actual fair, other than what we are contracted to do with the Fair Association. We also maintain the parks office and part of the facility there at the highway property itself. We have 7 picnic shelters. 6 of them are reservable, 15 restroom buildings, 6 swimming areas, 11 sports courts, baseball, basketball, pickleball, tennis, volleyball, horseshoes. We maintain 16.51 miles of hiking trails. 9.5 miles of those are groomed for recreational winter use, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. And then if you want to add the 7 miles of the Bannerman back into that, that is groomed for snowmobiling, not by us though. Part of our responsibilities also include tourism and promotion of the county parks and other forms of outdoor recreation. And part of that, we maintain all the visitor information booths that say Chamber of Commerce on the side of them. We took those over when I started here. They are now stocked and cleaned on a regular basis, as well as creating family-friendly recreation programs throughout the community. Properties that we lease from others: Curtis Lake, Huron Lake, Marl Lake, Kuzel Lake, and Pony Creek Park. Those are all leased through either townships or through the DNR. Properties that we lease to others: Nordic Mountain, Flynn's Quarry, West Point Quarry, and the Aurora Wayside, as well as we have a lease agreement with the Fair Association and winter storage at the fairgrounds, including Christmas amusements. We received several grants to our yearly, the Snowmobile Trail Maintenance Grant is $88,380. If you divide that by 300, that's how many miles. And off the top of my head, I believe it's about 270, and it continues to increase. We have a county conservation grant That is a matching grant. It's $3,392. Every county is eligible for that, and it's based on area. 2022, we're doing invasive species removal at Lake Alpine, Kuzel Lake, and Mount Morris. In 2023, I only applied for Kuzel Lake with the addition of that new property. It has a ton of buckthorn on it, so we're going to be concentrating on that. This year, we also have the CDBG close grant, and we'll go over that a little bit more. That's $639,586. It ends next Friday, and that covered the ADA improvements to the fairgrounds and all county parks. Park shelter reservations, we're staying kind of in line. 2021 was a odd year with everyone wanting to get out of COVID, but we're staying in line. But we have doubled both our revenue and our fees. Winter boat storage, 2019, we had $4,900 in revenue. 2022, we have $16,006. There's 49 boats and campers in the barns of various lengths, and it's $10 a foot. And we do have a waiting list if you want to get on it. And if I can fit it in there, it's going in. They are tight. You can put pieces of paper in between them, and that's about it. Snowmobile trails, we have 294. I said 271. I knew we got more last year. We are the liaison between the DNR and our 9 snowmobile clubs throughout the county. We apply for and oversee the maintenance grant from the DNR, as well as distribute the funds. $88,380. We are one of the few counties, we do not take a dime of that. 100% of that goes to the clubs. Some projects that we did this year. We rebuilt all the picnic tables at Mount Morris Hills Park. We built and installed new horseshoe backstops at Mount Morris and Otto Bry. Developed a new uniform signage for trails. We started with Willow Creek Park. As we continue to have funds, we will continue going through all of our parks with trails and making them all the same. On top of that, one of the things that we did is we took all of our brochures and they are all the same. The information's different, but they're all uniform when you open them up. It's not just a hodgepodge of information. It's all very similar, easy to read. We installed doors at all the visitor booths, replaced the roof at Morrow Lake Restroom, put in a steel roof. Bree fell through that one. We assist the treasurer's office with securing the tax deed properties, the foreclosure properties, as well as showing them to potential buyers. Myself, I've shown 38 properties in 2022, as well as completing 270 man hours of labor for the Fair Association. So we set up all the livestock pens, clean up the manure, clean up the pens, help them out as they require. One of the better projects that I think we accomplished, because I was told it couldn't happen. The hill was too steep. The picture on the left is the overlook last fall. The picture on the right is last week. So we spent the winter out on that hill and we cut everything down that was in the way, and 99% of it was invasive. Then we had some really nice fires. Kuzel Lake Park, we installed a new story walk trail. It's about a half a mile, and there's 22 story panels. And then we put new playground equipment at that park as well. George Sorensen Natural Area at Hartford Lake, that's a mouthful, but it's one of our hidden gems in the county. It's by far, in my opinion, one of the most natural and nicest pieces of property that we have. The entire backside of that property was inaccessible except by a plank that was over that creek. So we worked with the power company, got some telephone poles, and we built a bridge across that we can drive across and maintain that property now. And then we reconstructed the entire driveway in the parking area. Had a lot of erosion issues out there. The horse track, the banked horse track at was very popular back in its day at the fairgrounds. We removed that, and now it's nice and flat and level, and hopefully someday some grass will grow on it. The other big project that we did out at the fairgrounds is we worked with the local 4-H, and we put weed barriers and gravel underneath the grandstands to help reduce labor costs of constantly weed eating and spraying underneath those. CDBG close project. We are, like I said, wrapping up next week. We got about a 4-month delayed start on this project due to some environmental issues that we had to jump through quite a few hoops on. Mainly the blue butterfly, as well as a long-eared bat and a fish up at Willow Creek. So getting the late start, it was impossible to find local contractors, especially local contractors that wanted to be 100% transparent and open their books up because it is a federal grant. That was impossible. So we've done a lot of the work in the house. All of the gravel and asphalt paths were done by the highway department. So here's Pony Creek. This was back in the spring. Here it is now. That is laid down with the paving machine. It is just as hard as asphalt, and it's crushed limestone. Willow Creek, same thing. That's just over a mile of trail that we put limestone through the park. It is accessible with the wheelchair as well as strollers. There is also a story walk at that park. They are currently working at Kuzel Lake and the fairgrounds, completing some projects out there. Our restrooms, if you've ever used our restrooms, all but one are pit toilets, so they all smell very pleasant. We have changed how we maintain them, but we use a lot of bioorganisms in there rather than chemicals. And we've actually gotten really good results with the smells, as well as putting vents in the walls. So as you can see here, this is Kuzel Lake. You can see the mold on the walls. The paint was peeling. Pretty attractive, right? You rent that shelter out, and this is what you get to use. And I just screwed it all up, hit the wrong button. Here's what they look like now. So coat of paint. They have the proper handholds on them. Those stalls were about 34 inches wide. Now they're the full 60 that they need to be. We had to get creative with some of the vent stacks to get the grab handles in, but we made it work. But they all have new handhold signage. The doors are being replaced. The guys are working on that. They have about 6 more to do. They did 4 today. Putting in door openers and, like I said, improving the ventilation. While we were there, might as well take the time. Again, that's what it looked like. The top picture, and then we patched all the cracks, filled all the holes, and gave everything a nice Earl Shive and made it look pretty good. Now, most of these, I will tell you, I just found out 99% of our restroom buildings were built in the 60s. So they are at the end of their lifespan. We are finding as we're making these modifications that we're running into more issues than not. So they're 60 years old. Some of the recreation programs we've done, we did a candlelight snowshoeing event up at Kuzel Lake last year. Had about 40 people show up, which for a first time, that was pretty good. It was not very good snowshoeing weather, so we hiked it instead. We did we had a rummage sale at the fairgrounds back in June. There was, I think, 17 vendors out there. Everyone did pretty well. We worked with the Ice Age Trail Alliance and the health department on Walk the Wash. One thing that's new since I've been here is we celebrate Arbor Day every year at Pickup Park. Generally, it's where we put the playground equipment last year. So this year we did Lake Alpine, and we planted 17 trees between Lake Alpine and Kuzel Lake. We partner up with Mary from the Argus and assist with August Fest, and we do kids activities out on the courthouse lawn. One of the big things that continues to grow and gets a lot of support is the kids yard sale. So it's children selling their stuff, not mom and dad's blenders and toasters, but it's all toys and stuff like that. Huge turnout. I think we had 11. I know Megan's family was out there. I think we had 11 kids vending this year, and they all did pretty well. There's one little boy does over $100 every year. So, 2 years ago, with COVID, we started putting lights out on the fairgrounds. And this is our first year's display. So just to show you kind of where we came from, we literally had lights hanging off a tree, staked into the ground to put some lights out there, and everybody loved it. This is what we're doing now. This year we're doubling the length, doubling the displays, and we have a corporate sponsor this year, Case New Holland Millennium Booms, which was Specialty Enterprises right over here on Pickle Road. They are our title sponsor this year. So looking forward to that. We have lots to do, lots of lights to still build. So if you guys are interested, give me a holler. I can always use hands. Working on county employee morale. We hosted 5 cookouts on the courthouse lawn. I know several of you partook. We had burgers, brats, tacos, baked potato bars, all the fixins. I think we had burgers twice. We served 409 meals to county employees. And for the record, that's my entire crew at that picnic table. The fun thing, so we accomplish a lot, and we do it with 2 full-time staff, myself and the parks foreman. 1 department secretary, she works 20 hours a week. We have a maintenance technician that works 24 hours a week, and we have 2 staff that work 40 hours a week from June through August. And that is all of us. So I'm very pleased with the amount of work that we get done. I'm gonna toot the guys' horns, but I think I have the best crew in the county. Those guys love what they do, and they work really hard to make it happen. So, any questions?
Anybody have any questions? I know
Appreciate your time.
my granddaughter appreciates the playground equipment at Mount Morris. Big thumbs up there.
Awesome.
So, yeah, no, and they do a fantastic job for their crew size. So thank you, Kevin. Oh, we do have one here. Go ahead.
So this past weekend, I went to the Wapac County and a large group of people that brought their UTVs and they did a ride. How did an ATV get the?
The fairgrounds are reservable and rentable. We have a set fee that goes through the Public Works Committee. Off the top of my head, I'm not even going to try to tell you what that is. It's like $100,
Okay.
100 and a half, something like that. Just call in, get the paperwork. You have to have proof of insurance.
So they had a problem.
Yep. Yeah, we do quite a few events. I think this year was down a little bit, but we did a lot. Actually, the numbers were up, but the amount of individual events was less. We did a lot with the Horse Association this year. So,
All right. Thank you.
yep.
You know, and if any of you ever get a chance to come to the parks cookout too, it's a nice chance to see the employees, and it's always very good. So very good for morale. Thanks, Kevin. Okay. Part 3 here, the 2023 proposed budget and 2023 through 2027 capital improvements plan by County Administrator and Finance Director Sarah.
Me again. Is this on? Okay. Okay, so we sent out you should have received a presentation and then a big thick packet of numbers. But I wanted to just start and go through the presentation, and I won't read to you, I promise. Just talking about the budget and how the process works. Any fine details, Sarah said she'll answer all of those. So Just outlining what the county budget is. It's really the most important thing that we implement as the administrator and the board with our department heads. This is outlining the next year and the next 5 with our capital improvement plan. So this is, budgeting is going on all year round. You know, it's like once you get done, you're back in budget season again, because we're always trying to look to see how are we going to deal with this next year. This is the budget timeline typically of how it will run. So we have capital improvement plans we start talking about in April, and any staff changing with reclassifications. We've I think fixed that process. Then we also bring any of those changes or reclasses or new positions to executive, then to county board. We do the budget worksheets and send out salary information and do our best guessing on what insurance rates will look like. Some years, we'll see later, we're over 12% increases. This year, we had to send it out because WEA was no longer provided insurance, and we came in flat and actually came in a little bit lower than we were the year before, which was very took a little weight off of my chest, because that was the last thing that really came in. We get the equalized valuation, which I think we're all very well versed in now. But if not, Jeff is here and he can answer any of those questions. And then in October, we present it to you. And then November is when it comes back for the actual budget hearing. And then that is approved or make any changes. And then it's a formalized document. This, I won't go through this. This is the actual dates coming up. Today we're going through the budget, and then the most important next date is November 1st, which is that public hearing, and that supplants any other meetings for November. So that's the only county board meeting in November, correct? Okay. We already talked about WA Trust, and we are going with Humana for vision, dental, and the health plan. We were able to get somewhat of a discount if we took all 3, and it makes it a little bit easier on employees. For wages, for the second year in a row, we were able to give all full-time employees at least a 2.5% wage increase. So it went from 2.5 to 5.5, depending on where you are on the scale. So that was exciting. And I know that there's a neighboring county that wasn't able to give any COLA, and they actually reduced the amount that they were paying for benefits. So they went down to like 75% instead of the 85 or 90%. So I'm happy about that. The wage scale, we kept the wage scale. The task force worked really hard on getting a scale in place that was fair. They looked at other counties. That scale needs to constantly be looked at, so we stay in touch. But we kept with that scale and made any adjustments within this last year, and that task force will continue to do work to make sure that we're staying competitive with our neighbors. Reclassification, there were several reclassifications done throughout the last year, but only one position that you approved, which was the human resources and risk manager position, and that was approved for 2023 and was funded by the ARPA funds through health department to start early, and she started about 5 weeks ago. We have $89.5 million out with our building projects. This is just a list of where we're at with all of those. So the noteworthy information. So when we first got our budgets in, we sent all the information out to the departments. They send in back what they want. We give them the wages, but then they submit everything else back to us. When we came back, we were 2.9 million over the amount that we were allotted with the levy limits. Our levy increase was only about, was it 100,000? So from last year to this year, we only had $107,000 more that we could actually use, which with just a 2.5% COLA or anything, any sort of wage change would eat that up. So we went back and asked all the departments to look at their revenues and expenses again. And some of the departments have been doing really well, but we can't push them too far, with their revenues, because it's not always going to be like zoning for one. They've had, zoning and register of deeds have had like remarkable years because there's so much building. That won't always be, so we didn't want to push the revenues, inflate them too much, but they helped a lot with their revenues. And then we looked at the departmental restricted and unrestricted funds and looked at the departments and said, do we have these restricted funds? What can they be used for? What can they not be used for? We met with our auditor and our bond professional, which Jeff is here. Thanks, Jeff. And ultimately, we were able to make everything work, but for a few vehicles, quite honestly, in the capital improvement plan. Wally was okay taking 2 less squads this next year. We're going to look at the budget at the end of this year if we can make it work. And then we have a vehicle and zoning also that needs to be looked at. And then the last thing we'll look at is the ARPA funds. So overall, a couple concessions, but overall, we had all our people, we kept all our programs, and people got raises. So I liked this quote. That is what is measured improves. That is what measured and reported improves exponentially. So this goes into the reporting, and you'll have this in your packet. And this was the paperwork that you were given last year if you were here for that budget. And if you look at the bottom on that equalized value, and I know we've all heard this talked about before, but at the bottom, our equalized value in mill rate, the mill rate was at 688. Now, if we look at this year at the bottom, and it's a little blurry on here, sorry, but the mill rate with equalized value going up 17% in the bottom left corner, our equalized value went up $529,000 or $529 million. And then remember we were talking about that 90 some cents in all those building meetings. Well, our mill rate went from that 688 to that 590 or 591. So I just wanted to show it on there so everyone could see the math and that it actually was true. This is our just a snapshot of the capital improvement plan. And the capital improvement plan, if you look at the bottom numbers, this next year is 4.2 million, but the others are about 3 million. So next year will be a little bit higher with our capital improvement plan, maybe if we can't get it done in this year. Here's the equalized value, just so you all had that in your packet. Fund balances, and this is our history of our returns. So what return means is we didn't spend that money or we had more revenues than we expected. So last year it was 2.3 million. The years before was 1.5, and the lowest was in 2017. And some of this is regarding the status of not being able to hire people. Also, there was COVID money in these budgets. People were using COVID, but there's a lot of factors that go into that. Plus, our revenues were higher. We didn't know, we didn't know if we were going into a recession or not at that time. But like if you see 1.5 and 2.3 returned, those are good returns. So the money that we actually are using to apply in this budget isn't actually taking our balance down because we just returned 2.3 million to it. So the money we are applying is actually from that return. Does that make sense? So we're not like dipping into our savings. We're just using the monies that we didn't use before. Our net new construction has been from 0.83 to 1.05. So we're pretty consistent with our net new construction. And then because I like to just see things really simple and condense into one place, so I don't have to keep looking at a bunch of different pages. This is a breakdown from each year. So on the left, it's 2023 back to 2017. And it shows us what the health insurance increase was. So this year it was 0. The year before it was 4.8. 26.8% from 2019 into 2020 and 12% into 2019. So that's a very big variable that we lucked out at this point. And then it has our COLAs, it has our equalized values, and you can see it go right across the increases. So we, back in 2017, we were at 2.3% for our increases of our equalized value, and up to 5%, down to 1, and back to 6, and up to 17. We don't expect the 17 to maintain forever, but just so you can kind of see a 5-year look back, because it's hard to look back just those couple years here because of COVID. Everything's kind of been thrown off. And then you'll see our mill rate back in 2017 was $7 and 2 cents, and went up to 6.88 last year, and now back down to 5.9. Now, the taxes will be affected by the building project, but this is just the mill rate for the budget purposes. And then I also added the return, what we're returning to the general, and then what our expenses are at the bottom. And it just, I put that all together, so it's just one in one place for you. So you also should have a sheet either in, it was either in your mailbox or it was emailed, of a list of the kind of the notes on why or how things changed if in a budget, why it went up when it went down. It's kind of a explanation of, you know, any sort of change from the norm. Like if something went up 5% or 10%, why? And Sarah put that together for us. But with the process, so today we ask if you have any questions, and then anytime between now and the November 1st meeting, we're happy to answer any questions or concerns, or but if there's any changes or amendments that the board would like, we ask that be submitted to me, Megan, and Sarah, so that can be formulated, and then that would be proposed at the November 1st meeting. Is that right, Sarah?
And you want that by the 25th, is that correct? If possible.
If possible, if there's anything, because we've worked with the department heads and we've sent that back and forth to them. They have the solid numbers. I don't think there was any questions from the departments at this time, other than can we make a couple vehicles work? But otherwise, I think we have that settled. So if there's any changes from the board, yes, if we could get that, and I know that's coming fast. Next year, we'll have this to you earlier, but with Tyler this year, it's been painful at best, right?
I have a question, I guess, for you. The new building loan, is just the monies that we've taken out so far for this building. Any idea what that amount is how that is gonna affect the mill rate this year?
I think it would be the 90.
The 590 is? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not
So
gonna.
it will
it's
go
not-
up next year.
Right, okay, all right.
It-
Mhm.
And how that's going to affect the budget. Very sensitive to that.
Mhm.
Staff has done an incredible job presentation. Succinct. I think everybody can understand what Melissa has laid out to you. But specifically to your question, John, obviously when the board determines what the balance is going to be for projects, we'll be very careful in terms of how that's going to impact. So it's going to be minimal. I mean, it's going to impact you. I'm not saying we aren't paying for it. We are.
Mhm.
Up to this point, Sarah's exactly right. Everything we borrowed, the debt service is in this
Okay.
in this budget.
Okay.
So there's no surprises to anybody with respect to the building project. And certainly, it's not lost on me as to the gravity and the magnitude of this project for any county, especially one of our size. So we're gonna be sensitive to that going in through the next year. I'm starting to develop a really nice, I think, working relationship with your staff, which makes it easy for me to contact them to, Sarah's been good in terms of keeping me up to speed. No, Bart at one meeting tried to pigeonhole me in terms of how much it was gonna go down, and I almost spit out $1, and which I had now, because without the detail, I was just looking at the big picture, and you're down 90-some cents. So, all in all, I consider it, I'd say it's a pretty nice budget that you're able to be presented with. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a couple of chance to talk about this yet in this meeting. And then by October 25th, hopefully, if you have anything you'd like to see changed, you can bring that forward. And then on the November 1st, then we'd have to vote on that and the budget. We'd have a hearing at that time as well.
Can I ask a question?
You sure can.
So on the returns, you had said that for 2023 budget, you're looking at applying the return from 2022, like the majority of it to the budget.
No, not a majority.
Okay.
It's the 1.4, it's this line, right? Do you have this sheet? It's like the, has the explanations on the right-hand side. It's 1.4, about 1.4 million.
Okay. That was included in all the budget papers.
Yeah.
All right. I'll
There is
do that.
no good way to propose a budget that's this thick, unless you want to do them one by one.
Yeah, because the main question I just had is with, you'd said that there's some positions that need to be filled yet, and so there's some of the funds that the reason for the larger return was some of the positions that we aren't paying towards and things. So when those get filled, I was just curious as to how much was being applied to, so that we aren't getting too tight.
Right.
So-
And we budget those positions as they're full for the most part. Some of the departments are never full, and we budget those at like 93%.
Okay.
But because there's always an opening in the sheriff's office, or there's always a DHS opening or an EMS opening, we don't have to budget it 100% because it doesn't happen. So we still have in this budget, we are budgeting as if those positions have people in them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and you've got to remember our budget is kind of an educated guess. And this year with fuel and everything, I noticed when just looking through that was kind of one line item that had to get a hit from everyone because you just don't know how high this kind of things are going to be. So
Thanks for this presentation too. This is really well laid out.
very nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, is there any other questions?
I've got a question.
Okay, Bart.
So you mentioned that there was no increase in health costs.
Correct.
But when I go through the budget, there's a huge variation from department to department in health costs.
Yep.
Some way up, some way down. Why is there such a variation in that?
So if you're on your husband's or wife's plan and you're not on our plan, there's no cost to us. But if you're on the family plan, I think it's 24,000 a person. But if you're on a single plan, it's like 9,000. So say I'm going to use somebody for an example. Like if you go to a department of one, like person leaves my department and they go to the department of one and they have health insurance, but the person before didn't, you have an increase of about 24,000 if they have a family plan in just that one line. So that's where you have the variation. Or sometimes if we're budgeting for positions that are open, we will budget for the family plan because you don't want a $14,000 surprise. But if we do know who those people are, we budget like they would budget me as a single plan. And then we had 2 people start in my department. When we first budgeted, we family planned them. But then when they started, they didn't have the family plan, so we could back those out.
That makes sense.
it's always like budget more as opposed to try to fix it later.
Is that where some of those returns come from?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for Melissa or Sarah or Jeff? Okay, very good. Thank you. Very well done. Okay, then we'll move on to C, discussion possible motion action items. Number one, the Winnebago Waterways Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement by and between Fox Wolf Water Alliance, Calumet, Fond du Lac, and Winnebago counties. Is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. Waddle, second by Mr. Urban. Is there discussion? Right. Mhm. And he put in some information in our packets too, if you had a chance to look through that. So any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Mr. Eckstein?
Eckstein votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the cooperation agreement passes. All right, number two, the proposed budget amendments. Now, this is if you had something you want to amend the budget right now, you could bring it forward. Okay. No, we'll just, if there's none, we'll just move on. Okay, part three, Operation Green Light for Veterans, approval of funds to light government buildings. Is there a motion? Okay, motion by Bart. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bossard. Is there any discussion? Anyone want any explanations for this? You probably read what it said in the things. All right, we'll proceed to vote.
Mr. Eckstein?
Eckstein votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and it passes. Okay, all right, D, consideration, possible action on the following resolutions. Number one, resolution number 39-10-22, Capital Improvements Plan 2023 through 2027. Has everyone had a chance to look at that? We'll have a motion to accept. All right. And by Mr. Bonfiglio, a second. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Mr. Peterson. All right. Is there any discussion?
This is just a plan.
Mhm.
Just a plan. Right.
Yep. You saw the plan. Do you want any clarification on any of it?
No, I guess what I'm just saying is it doesn't lock you in.
No.
So it's just a plan.
Just so we can determine, what our
Right.
future
I
is going to be.
understand
Mhm.
the idea for it. I'm just saying it's not locked
Mhm.
in.
Yeah, and some of the things will change too, because like now Melissa's working on a vehicle replacement plan and things like that. So those kind of things may change future. All right. Any other discussion? All right, we'll proceed to vote.
Fine.
Eckstein aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the resolution passes. All right, resolution number 40-10-22, resolution in support of increased county child support funding. Is there a motion? A motion by Mr. Bossard, second by Mr. Kirschner. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
The resolution passes. Resolution number 41-10-22, supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans. Is there a motion? Okay, motion by Mr. Bossard, the second. Second by Mr. Urban. Is there any discussion? Okay. All right, we'll proceed to vote.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution passes. All right, well, then we're up to 9, board suggestions for future agenda items. And I want to point out too that our next meeting is November 1st, 2022, and we'll have our hearing, then the 2023 budget public hearing, and the regular monthly meeting. That'll be our monthly meeting for next month. So is there any other suggestions for future agenda items? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion by Mr. Bonfiglio.
Move to adjourn.
Second by Mr. Cap. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
They can hit their buttons.
Six PM still.
Yeah, thanks for helping me get through this. I'm just been out in the state all day, freezing. And then the guy over here was just about
I can't imagine Melissa going through.
You know, I am too. I really am. Thanks for bringing that forward with the tower. I mean, they got it, you know.
I got a
it's
light.
good to have people.
10 hours a day to sit and look at that.
Trying to figure out, okay. Berkeley.
Of course. For what?
Monica Keeler.
Keeler.
Yeah, see guys, that's, yeah, I forgot all about it. That one, I wrote it down on my calendar twice. I completely spaced out. I heard, Mike had all kinds of questions and he's getting out of control,
And then Kenneth Doro.
but
Thank
it's your turn to
You
appoint
bet.
somebody then. You find somebody to fill that spot.